Shall we stand to hear the Word of God, to pay reverence and respect? We greet you this morning, those here in the sanctuary, those who have just joined us on Facebook, and to our YouTube viewers at a later date. It's in the name of Jesus we say good morning to you all. This morning we shall be reading from Matthew, the 11th chapter, verses 28 through 30. Matthew, the 11th chapter, verses 28 through 30. From the King James Version, Matthew, the 11th chapter, verses 28 through 30. When you have found it, say amen. Amen. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. You may be seated in the presence of the Most High God. And this morning we just want to talk from the subject, an invitation for the soul. An invitation for the soul. Find a neighbor and whisper to them, neighbor, whoa neighbor, an invitation for the soul. Down in your playground voice, say neighbor, whoa neighbor, an invitation for your soul. Amen, amen. I know Sean is still awake, praise God. My assignment, Sean, is not to put him to sleep either. Amen, amen, amen. If we were to take a poll, Danielle to have an inquisition and an inquiry, even a water cooler or a cup of coffee conversation, Jordina, all of us, either here in the sanctuary, Dorian, all of us on the Facebook live feed at this moment, and those who will view later, Karen, on YouTube, we would all unanimously agree, Mother Jahar, we come to a conclusion without any emotional outburst, worthy of a child throwing a temper tantrum. You know how it is, those kids that pick up their one marble and leave Henrietta and go home? They don't want to play no more, because they can't have their way. All of us, Gail, have had, there will always be someone or have had someone or something, EMJ, extending an invitation to us to join them, to meet with them, and Baba to spend time with them. All of us have had these moments. By the silence, I can tell it's true. The invitation to commemorate and to celebrate and to congratulate either an accomplishment, an achievement, or an accolade happening in their lives or in their child or children's lives. We've had all these invitations. And oftentimes, Karen, we think of invitations as being for large events. As a child, you might receive an invitation for a birthday party. As an adult, they probably come from things such as weddings and graduations. An invitation to a birthday party, Priya, or a wedding is as much, if not more, says about the person sending the invite more than the person receiving the invite. I'm going somewhere. The invitation, Dr. Wilson, signals, Reverend CLE, an important event that the inviter wants someone to know about. In addition, it includes something for the invited Mother Marcella to bring, like BYOB. Now, I got to clarify proper, because somebody told me about bring your own Bible. This is bring your own Bible. See, I knew they would wake up on this note. If you had those BYOB and you bought your... Well, I've seen some invitations lately, Mother Ethel, with Cash App information. Or suggesting you bring a gift. I need to cover the house. Then there are also those invitations that the inviter will signal to the invited to RSVP information so that the sender of the invitation can know exactly who and how many will be attending. So here are our definitions for invitations this morning. A written or verbal request inviting to go somewhere or to do something. A situation or action that persuades someone to do something or make a particular outcome likely. The written or spoken form requesting or asking someone to spend time with them. Here are our synonyms. I don't know what happened to suggestion. I guess SU want to be by itself. For today: appeal, bid, challenge, petition, proposition, request, solicitation, suggestion, summons, bidding, overture, date, urge, provocation, motive, open door, offer, supplication, and for our story this morning, or our sermon, is called. Here are some quotes for us today, August the 14th, 2002. When our actions are based on good intentions, our soul has no regrets. Quote, you have to grow from the inside out. None can teach you, none can make you spiritual. There is no other teacher but your own soul. Swami Vivekananda. Quote, spiritual relationship is far more precious than physical. Physical relationship divorced from spiritual is body without soul. Mohandas Karman Gandhi. Did I say that right? Good enough. You know you have mastered a soul lesson when the situation or circumstance has not changed, but your response has. Quote, God's provision for our souls in terms of spiritual and eternal life is in Christ and Him crucified, unquote, Brian Johnston. And lastly, quote from Psalm 62:1-2, my soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from Him. He is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I shall never be shaken. And here we have arrived at our takeaways from our text. But first, let me give historicity before we just jump in to the text. At the beginning of the 11th chapter, church, in Matthew's Gospel, he records for us that John the Baptist has six questions for Jesus. From verses 1 through 6, you can read those and see that when Jesus had ended his commandment and they departed, that John has a question that he sends, or questions that he sends to Jesus in the early portion of our text. Would you mind if I just read it, because it makes sense? And it came to pass when Jesus had made an end of commentary, his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach, to preach in their cities. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples, said unto him, art thou the Christ? Or should we look for another? Jesus answered and said unto him, go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. And so Matthew writing continued through verses 7 through 19. I'm not going to read all those. As they departed, the narrative informs us that Jesus begins telling the multitude the things concerning John the Baptist. So when we continue through chapter 11 and verse 20 through 24, we can read, Henrietta, that Jesus declares with reproach, here we go, new members, which actually is a different view, or it's with disapproval or disappointment, that there were cities where most of his mighty works were done because they repented not. Now that says something to us, and I don't have time to exegete the text, because that's not part of the assignment. But Jesus, when his word goes forth, Dorian, he will back it up with works. And when his works show, people still would not repent. And so he says, woe unto them, if you're following the text and moving along with us, he says, woe unto these cities. And then he lists the cities for us. And now before we begin our ascent into our text, the record declares, and I need you to focus on verse 27, Jesus answered and said, from 25 to 27 in this moment of this pericope, watch this, I got to read these for us, because 27 is the verse. He says, at that time Jesus answered in verse 25, he said, I thank you, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou did these things from the wise, or hid these things from the wise and the prudent, and has revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in thy sight. Here it is. Circle this, highlight it, if you would. All things are delivered unto me of my Father. And no man knoweth the Son but the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father save the Son. So Jesus is saying they're in an intimate relationship. Hallelujah. And they know each other. Amen. And the text says, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. And so now Jesus, here we go, Carlton, enters into our text. But keep your eyes on 27, because it is the hinge that swings the door open to verse 28, 29, and 30. Are y'all still in this house? So here is our first takeaway, Hillary, from our text. An invitation with opportunity. An invitation with opportunity. An invitation with opportunity. The Bible says, come unto me. Just those three words, I just want to start there. This would inform us that there is a place, Jordina, there is a location, there is a spot, Elderberry, a situation or a circumstance that those Jesus is speaking to, they find themselves in this situation. And his desire, watch this, because it's the Father's desire. So you got to remember, they're hooked up together. Their desire, his desire, and the Father's desire, this is huge, is for them to leave where they are. Yes, yes. Come on, preach it. Where the Father nor the Son desires them to be, Karen, and to come to him. Now you got to notice in the text, Mother Barbara, notice in the text, Gigi, that he isn't forcing them. He isn't making them, Gail, come against their own volition. He doesn't threaten them. He doesn't offer them an ultimatum. He doesn't say to them, you come to me or else. He doesn't bribe them. He doesn't use any tricks up his sleeve. I'm trying to say something here. No rabbit in the hat, no smoke and mirrors. He doesn't say to them, he only offers them the invitation and the opportunity to leave where they are and to come where he, I feel like preaching this morning. To come where he is. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Verse 27 is the key that unlocks this door to verse 28, 29, and 30. Because of the relationship, church, the Father and the Son have, no man knowing the Son except the Father, and no man knowing the Father except the Son, but they know each other and are intimate with each other in their relationship. So all that Jesus is saying when he says, come unto me, it is the Father's desire and will and divine purpose that they leave from where they are and to come to where Jesus is asking them to come. It'll make some sense in a moment. Jesus knows where they are. See, we got to wrap ourselves in that understanding that when we're in some place or some circumstance or some situation that he's calling us to leave, tells us he knows where we are. Yes. But it's not the desire, Danielle, that God would have us in and the circumstance, or else Jesus would say, stay where you are.
Come on, Reverend. Come on. Come on. Talk about this.
He wants us to leave from where we are. And it's the Father's decision, it's the Father's desire, and being divine as he is the reason for Jesus' dialogue for them and for us to leave where we are and to come to him.
Come on.
So somebody saying, well, Pastor, what situation and circumstances are they in? I heard you. I'm glad you asked.
Come on.
And so the reason behind the text, Marcella, is that they are to leave from where they are is based on the conditions they are living in. Yeah. He says, all of you that labor and are heavy laden. Come on. These are the conditions they're living in. But the situation and the circumstance, Drake, is that the religious leaders, the Pharisees and the scribes and the rabbis, have put more law on them than they can handle or stand or bear. And so Jesus, now the text is starting to burst wide open, is telling them you need to leave the law, the additional law that they placed on you, and come to me where I... Because the condition is that they are laboring and are heavy laden. And here is the cause. Let me repeat it because somebody missed it. They're suffering under the load of religious responsibilities laid on them by the priests, laid on them by the rabbis, laid on them by the scribes and the Pharisees. Hallelujah. These people had placed on God's people additional law to what God had already declared was law. But theirs was unbearable, unnecessarily, and undeniably unattainable.
Amen.
Let me catch my breath. They were making it, Danielle, harder and impossible for God's people to see God through his law, watch this, and discover God's love. See, love is inside of the law. Maybe I'd say it this way. Love, I just turned, that's all, is inside of the law.
Amen. Amen.
See, when you and I give our children laws, it's only because where I was being beaten, when I didn't follow the law, it's because I love you. Let me start walking early. So the love that God had is inside of the law. But they couldn't see his love because they had burdened them and caused them to labor with their additional law. They were making it harder, Christina, and impossible, church, for God's people to see God's law and his love inside of the law. Instead, their additions to God's law became labor. And so I looked at the Greek word and found out, Carlton, that the labor is causing them to feel fatigue. It's causing them to toil. It's causing them to become weary. And so then heavy laden, I looked at the Greek side of that, is to load with burden. So not only was the labor fatiguing and toilsome and wearisome, but the heavy laden side of the load is, Gail, the burden was too much for them to carry. God's law was given through his love, and it's inside of the law we can and we should see the love of God. So let me hasten to get out of this verse. Jesus in 28C, Elder Marshall, offers the opportunity to change the fatigue, change the toil, I'm talking to somebody, change the weary, and change being loaded up with burden in exchange for rest in him.
Amen. Amen.
That's why, Casey, he wants them to come. See, I'm talking to somebody on the camera in the sanctuary. Somebody has put some stuffness on you. Their own law that has caused you to labor and caused you to toil and caused you to be weary and caused you to be tired with a burden, Jordina, that's too heavy and not meant for you to carry.
Amen. Could be self.
There was someone in this very moment, either on Facebook Live or right here, and showing you are in the notes. It could be our own law that we placed on ourselves. And some of us are fatigued. Some of us are tired. We're toiling. We're weary. We're strapped. We're struggling. We're stuck. We're standing still. We're sick of it. We've had it up to here. The pot is boiling over. I can't take it anymore. And this morning, Jesus declares, come unto me. Leave from where you are and find rest. This is an invitation for the soul.
Come on.
Remember next, I'm just getting warmed up. Not only invitation with opportunity, but it's an invitation to take, learn, and find rest for the soul.
Come on.
Watch verse 29. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek lonely in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. Listen to this. I just need you to listen to this. Let me calm down. Listen to this. Somebody needs to hear this. So the Spirit is saying you got to exhale for a moment, preaching. Just go slow. Jesus says, take my yoke upon you. Jesus, nor the Father, I got to keep repeating this, together would not ask EMJ, any of us, to leave from the place we are, to come to them and not have an alternative that is better than where we came from. Are you missing it?
Come on.
They're not going to ask you to come.
Come on.
Where it's worse, or harder, or heavier. And not to think that you don't have some help, or where I'm sending you or trying to get you to come to, the alternative is better than where you just left.
Come on, brother. Come on.
Let me get happy by myself.
Yeah.
I wish I had a church this morning.
Come on.
Isn't that just like God? He won't have you take off the old person and not have a new person for you to become.
Come on.
He won't ask you to come from stuck and stagnant to where you can't move and don't have no ability to move. For whom the Son set free,
Come on now. Come on.
is free indeed. He has a better place than where you're coming from, and where he's asking you, the invitation with the opportunity is to come. He says here, we have to take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Jesus is asking his listeners, his hearers, and us at this moment, church, Elder Marshall, to understand this. When they come from where they are, and when we come from where we are, which is labor and heavy laden, gets heavier, Marcella, they must and we must surrender our will and be submissive to his will.
There you go.
So you and I can't come to him. Watch this, Facebook. We can't come with the same old attitude that we had from where we came from and come to him with the same mindset that is my way or the highway, Jesus. You just need to stay where you are. But if you want to leave the labor and the heavy laden, he's asking you to wave the white flag and surrender your will and become submissive to his will. Can I get deeper? And the reason why folks are still laboring and heavy laden is they only come because they wanted fire insurance to get out of hell, but won't let him be Lord and in control of their lives. It's getting hot in here. Don't you? Yeah, it's fire insurance. They just want to get out of here. That's all. He says, learn of me. You must, and I must surrender and be submissive to him. Remember that line when we close. Jesus is asking them and us to become his disciples. Got quiet. See, folks are in church for the wrong reason. When you come to him, he's asking you, it's in the text, Carlton, it's so beautiful to see, that when you surrender your will and become submissive to his will, Jesus says, here is what you will receive. He says, I am meek and lowly in heart. And so I did an extra research and went to Tony Evans' Bible commentary, and Dr. Evans points this wonderful picture for us to see this morning, and I quote, he says, a yoke is a wooden bar harnessed to the necks of a pair of oxen to bring them under submission and enable them to do the work the farmer needs them to do. And so it gets deeper. So the farmer, watch this church, watch this gal, would take an older oxen and a younger oxen and yoke them together. So the older oxen, who has the experience, can help develop the younger oxen so that the farmer can have the field plowed and reap a crop and a harvest. All right, so now you see why Jesus wants to call them from where they are and be attached to Jesus, because he's older, he's experienced, and he knows what the Father needs us to, or asks us to do in service and in ministry. Stuff is deep right here, LP. So you can't do ministry for God not attached to Jesus. Let me try this out. We can't do ministry for God and he get the glory. Let me finish qualifying it. Because folks are doing ministry, but it ain't for him, and it's about their glory. But I can tell you right now, honestly, Sanctuary and Facebook and YouTube, they don't know who Jesus is. They haven't come to him. They haven't surrendered. They haven't submitted. So therefore, they can't give God any glory with their performance. Christina, maybe that's too heavy and too hot. Somebody said, this boy preaching this morning. Lord have mercy. I'm preaching better, Karen, they saying amen. Yeah, keep on preaching. I got to go. You're right, Mom Ethel. I like my mother's telling me what to do because I'm obedient. Watch this. Watch this, Gail. So Jesus is saying when he takes his yoke, and we based on our, see, it's based on our surrender and submission route, because Jesus is not going to waste his yoke if no one has surrendered nor submissive.
Listen to that.
And attach ourselves to him, because he knows with intimacy, Henrietta, what the Father's desire is, that we be attached with him, be surrendered, submissive to him, so we can do the Father's ministry and his will, and he gets all the glory.
That's right.
See, when we experience meekness, it turns out to be, Gail, gentleness and humility. There's too many folks in the church, and this ain't even in my notes. I can just look down because I don't want to look up. Too many folks in the church who aren't humble, who aren't gentle, who have no temperance, no patience. And I submit to you and surrender to you that I want to know about the yoke you got on around your neck, because it ain't Jesus' yoke. Somebody said ouch, they can't say amen. And see, and he goes on lowly in heart, which turns out, Carlton, are his thoughts and his feelings. See, when Jesus attaches to you, your gentleness and your humility, you learn from him as a disciple, and you are a disciple-led. I want to clear everybody in the gender. Somebody said, Pastor, you didn't say women. I just did. But lowly in heart is the thoughts and the feelings. So we have his heart, we have his feelings, we have his thoughts, we have his meekness, we have his gentleness, we have his humility, we have his temperance. But one thing we shouldn't put up is anybody that's fake that's in the church.
Come on.
Y'all got quiet. Listen to this. Listen. So when we come to Jesus, when we leave from where we are, and we leave from who or what it is that has put additional burden on us and caused our labor to toil and causing us to be weary, and we surrender our will, we have to let go, we have to give up, we have to cease and desist doing what we used to do. And because submissive to his will, Jesus will yoke himself to us, attach himself to us, and tie himself to us, allowing us to understand and teach us, and we can learn his meekness, we can learn his lowly in heart, we can learn his humility, we can learn his thoughts, these are what disciples do, and we can learn his feelings, that we can demonstrate the Father to the world with our lifestyle. Marcella, you taught me something in the members class, that the end result is always greater than the process.
Amen.
Every time. Every time. The end result. So what's the end result, Pastor? Well, if you read the text, you can see it. It's rest for your soul. Oh. It's rest for your soul. I'm only preaching the scriptures. I don't have nothing favorite, no phony stuff for you. I don't do that. That's just the scripture. It's right there. The end result that is better than the process. See, some folks, Gail, we shouldn't, and let me go this way. We shouldn't have a problem if we say we belong to Jesus, with him attaching to ourselves, going through some stuff, knowing he's with us, he'll never leave us nor forsake us, but the end result is while we're going through, you can still sleep at night. You can still have rest for your soul. You don't have to worry about being defeated. You don't have to worry about being overtaken. God is still with you, and you can find rest for your soul. See, rest is better than struggle. Rest is better than strain. Rest is better than stretch. Rest is better than being stuck and stagnant and stench and not going anywhere. An invitation carrying with opportunity, an invitation to take, learn, and find rest for the soul. And my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Lord, have mercy. What time do we have? Plenty of time, somebody just said. Here's verse 30. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. And as we near our ascent and arrive at our destination, Jesus makes this declaration in the last verse of chapter 11. We must know and understand we've left from where we were. We decided to come to Jesus. We decided to follow Jesus. We decided to surrender our will. We decided to be submissive to his will. It doesn't mean, let me say this and I gather my breath. It doesn't mean this is zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. It doesn't mean we're going to have a parade every day and just walk through life as if there is no rain or no storms that we have to deal with. For the text tells us that Jesus says that my yoke is easy, watch this, and my burden is light. The yoke can be placed, watch this here, right upon us, and we can find rest, but you only find it in the midst of those burdens or the trials or the tribulations and the trouble and the tumult and the tempest and the test that comes our way in this life. Jesus declared in John that be of good cheer.
That's right.
In this world you will always have tribulation. But be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. They are going to happen, saints. They're going to happen, church. That we're going to have moments where we are going to have trials, Drake. We're all going to have trouble. We're all going to have tempests or storms. We're all going to be tested. We're all going to have tumult. And we are certainly, Mom Sandy, never to be immune from them. That's right. So the yoke, Mother Ethel, can be placed in the same category as rest while we're going through the storms we have to deal with. That's right. That's right. With his yoke attached to us, and we attach to his yoke, Jesus, here's why his yoke is easy and his burden is light. We lifted up about 3 minutes ago, and we may have forgotten, that God would never attach two weak oxen together. That Jesus is the stronger of us. And so while the burden may be heavy, he's strong enough to carry the burden and make it light. That's right. Make it light. Yeah. That's right. The issue is if we're going to give it to him and decide it's too much for us to carry. But Jesus, because I know you're with me, I know you're in this burden together, and you know what? You tell me to just transfer it to you because you're the stronger of the two of us. My resources won't do it. My clothes won't do it. My chariot won't do it. My house won't do it. My hair won't do it. My looks won't do it. Where I live won't do it. But Jesus, if I give my burden to you because you're stronger, than I am. Marcella, you don't mind me testifying, do you? When I was sharing, she was sharing with me and pouring into me, I'm supposed to be comforting her. She said, Pastor, when I weighed it down, up and down, I looked at the situation and the circumstance, here's the sum total. It's got to be Jesus. See, it's not till you get to that moment that when you realize there's nothing you can do, that it, I wish I had a witness, that it's got to be Jesus. Then I can sleep. Then I can rest. Then I can go on and live the way the Father desired me to live. It's got to be. It's too much for me to carry. That's why I'm attached to him. owe you a pop, Marcella, for life. See, him attached to us. Know this, that we have his strength. Understand that we have his endurance. We have his stick-to-itiveness to go through and overcome. I said to go through and overcome. To go through and overcome any burden, any situation, any circumstance that comes our way. Jesus declares, my burden is light. This is an oxymoron by definition, because Reverend C.L.E. Elder Barry, a burden is heavy. But Jesus says, look at the antithesis of this. My burden is light. Jesus personalized the burden by calling it my burden. See, when we let go of our burden and put it on him, because Peter said, cast all your care upon him, it becomes his burden. Jesus lifted the burden of sin. He replaces it with his burden. Watch this. Watch this. This is where it gets tricky, Danielle, but it really isn't if you're following him. I just said it.
Come on.
I just said it.
Come on.
He will take your burden so you and I can follow. Because as long as we're burdened, as long as we're strapped and stuck, we don't want to follow him. How is that, Jahar? Because we're too busy figuring it out. He's already worked it out. And now we can be able to follow him. Maybe it's just me, Karen, but I'm getting happy right here, Elder Marshall, that we can follow him. He says my yoke is easy. I did a little study on it, and I found out to be that his yoke is well-fitting. That means one size fits all. Wait, Pastor, wait, preacher. You mean to tell me I ain't got to go in the dressing room and try it on? No. You mean to tell me I ain't got to take it back to the store because I realized I didn't go in the dressing room, didn't try it on, and it didn't fit? No. You mean to tell me I'm not going to get my money back because I want to take it back? I don't have a receipt? No. One size fits all. Maybe it's me, girl, but I had a moment with that. Now I'm happy about that. I'm excited about that. That one size fits all. I personalize that because his yoke fits me. My story is different from your story.
Come on, Reverend.
But the same yoke now that fits me will fit you. If you just give him the...
Come on!
I gotta go. I'm ready to run. I gotta go. I gotta go.
Come on!
His yoke that fits all of us is never too heavy. It's never too hurtful. It will never hinder us. It gives us help and it gives us hope that if Jesus, you went through, we can go through. There's nothing or no one that can stop us because you're attached to us.
That's right. That's right.
Jesus will always carry. This is what made me shout during amongst all this sermon. He will always carry. See, you got to find a neighbor because I'm ready to convince them. He will always carry the heavy part of the load. Always. So you got to find a neighbor. Ain't that good news? Come on. I got to wrap myself and hug myself to heart. He will always carry the heavy part. That means as big as I am, as fragile as I am, I don't have to worry about carrying the load because you got to remind yourself that when the burden is on you and you let it go, you ain't got to go back and pick it up off of him. You can walk and follow him, but he will always, Marcella, carry the heavy load. That's a t-shirt. Always. Always carry the heavy load. You always carry the heavy part of the burden. No burden is too heavy. If you lean, I hear Bill Withers, lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. Oh, it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother. When you need a friend, we all need somebody to lean. Come on, let's go with it. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Come on, give him some glory. Come on, give him some praise in this house. He's worthy of all the praise. Worthy of all the honor. Honey, I gotta close, sweetheart. There it is. I gotta close. I gotta go. I gotta go, Ralph. Gail got some more food at her house from yesterday. I gotta go. I'm glad I forgot I'm gonna do a drive-by, boo. I'm coming to get some more cake. Why should I accept Jesus' invitation?
Come on.
What a way to close.
Tell me why.
Why?
He's the best one.
You know, we got some, I know everybody here grown up except for the babies. We got some 2-year-old mentalities. Why? Because you know kids act why. You tell them to do something, why? Go over here, why? Somebody saying, why, preacher, why should I accept Jesus' invitation? And I'm glad you asked. Here's why we should accept Jesus' invitation. Well, Shelly, since you're talking to me, let me personalize it, because I hear you, bro. Here's why I accepted Jesus' invitation. Because I could not live, this is heavy. I could not live in the plan, purpose, and promises of God if I'm laboring and I'm heavy laden and do not have Jesus attached to me. See, they missed it.
That's it. That's it. Come on.
See, Jesus doesn't have flowery and fancy words right here. The reason why he wants us to come from where we are and to leave that which is laborious and heavy laden and leave it with him is because God has a plan.
Come on, Reverend.
And a purpose and a promise for all of us in this room, from the pulpit to the parking lot, LP. And we can't do that if we're toiling, if we're laboring, if we are heavy burdened and can't move and stuck and stagnant. We can't live in his plan, we can't live in his purpose, and we sure enough can't live in his promises unless we're attached to Jesus.
That's it. Come on, Reverend. That's it.
Well, how is that true, Gigi? Because when we didn't have Jesus, and we didn't know about his plan, we didn't know about his purpose, we didn't know about his promise until we said yes to him and accepted the invitation. Lord have mercy. It's when we say yes to him, then we realize that he revealed to us through his spirit what God's plan is, what God's purpose is, and what his promises is for our lives. So we can live in the plan and the purpose and the promise God has intended for us to live in. Somebody wrote a song about take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Want to hear? Here it goes. If the world from you withhold of its silver and its gold, and you have to get along with meager fare, these Old Testament saints, just remember in his word how he feeds the little birds. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. If your body suffers pain and your health you can't regain, and your soul is almost sinking in despair, Jesus knows the pain you feel. He can save and he can heal. Take your, I'm talking to somebody, take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. When the enemies assail and your heart begins to fail, don't forget that God in heaven answers prayer. He will make a way for you and will lead you safely through. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. Don't bring it back. Don't drop it off and pick it back up. Don't take it back to your chair. Don't go back out here right now at 12:01 with the same burden you came in with. Somebody needs to take the burden and put it with Jesus and leave it there. But then I thought about something. And I'm closing. This is a dangerous moment for me mentally. That whenever I think, hear me to tell you, that's a dangerous proposition. Let that boy just start thinking about some stuff. It is. Because my mind can go all the way to China and come back. And bring something from China with, that's the problem. I can go there, but to bring something back is her problem. Some of us go places our mind takes us and we bring stuff back with us. Come on, Gail, it's just me. Maybe it's just me and you, Jordan, and Gail, it's just us. Listen, I think of some stuff that I ain't got no, listen. I go in some places I ain't got no places. Listen, I'm not all preacher every 24. Listen, I'm not all pastor. I still in my flesh. I'm going to help somebody deliver. And so what Jesus does in this text, come on, Sally, this is heavy right here. Because only the Holy Ghost peeled it back, Carlton, let me see even deeper with this close. He says, listen, you have to surrender. You must be submissive. But then I notice in the text, why did he leave out sacrifice? Why did he not talk about sacrifice? Why did he not mention he was going to the cross? Right in this part. Listen. Listen. I know you swung with that same thought. And I was sitting there with God saying, okay, why? Why didn't he talk about sacrifice? Why not, submit? That's salvation. Salvation is about surrender your will, submit to his will, and then sacrifice your time, talent, temple, and treasure. Jesus mentions it later on in Matthew, but he says, I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to go to the cross.
Come on.
So you can see my arms stretched wide.
Come on.
And then offer you the invitation to come and give your life for the sacrifice I'm doing right now. So he didn't just talk about it in words, Dorian. He did it in work. And so the hookup before I go and let you all leave here is to understand that when you surrender your will and that when you're submissive to his will, there has to be a sacrifice.
Come on.
If you're going to live in his plan,
Come on, Reverend.
if you're going to live in his purpose, and if you're going to live in his promises, you have to sacrifice your time, your talent, your temple, and your treasure, and follow him. See, if I was talking about houses, cars, and land, the lights would have went up unbelievable on Facebook. Yeah, Pastor, you preaching right, boy. That's what I'm in here for. I'm looking for the do, re, mi, ma, fa, la, sol, la, ti, da. But when we talk about sacrifice, it costs you something.
Lift him up, God. Lift him up.
They say, well, salvation is free, preacher. Yeah, it is. The penalty, the price, and the presence Jesus has dealt with. You and I couldn't do it, so it's free in that aspect. But understand, discipleship costs something.
Come on, Reverend. Set it up. Teach it right.
You want to give up some of your time, your talent, your temple, and here we go, Elder Mark, your treasure.
That's right. That's right. Call the road.
Because where your treasure is,
Come on.
that's where your heart is. Somebody say, here he go about money. Yup. To be able to support the ministry that his plan, see, they didn't see all that, Bob. See, Pastor, I got no problem surrendering my will. Here, Jesus, I give you about 20 minutes. And I take the other 23 and how many hours? 23 hours and 40 minutes. That'll be 24 hours in a day.
That's right.
But it's about sacrifice. But once you surrender your will, you got to understand this part and be submissive to his. You have to sacrifice. It's a part of the landscape. Listen, when he's attached to you and he's with you, he's already told you that. You hear me as often, and Pastor, you've been trumpeting this since you came back. There is no unemployment in the church. Zero. And as disciples, and we're following him, and we've surrendered to him, and we've submitted to him, we have to sacrifice those things that I just mentioned.
That's right.
Nothing else, I'm sorry, nothing else tells me someone else is saved.
That's it.
Y'all got quiet. We talked about this in the members class. And the reason why we sacrifice is because somebody sitting here, Ralph, or somebody outside wants to see our fruit.
Come on now.
That they can come up off your tree, Dr. Wilson, and understand how peaceful you are, even though your world is crumbling inside of you. Somebody needs to know you got patience to deal with some stuffuses. They see the leaves, but they want to look at the fruit. And so it's in your sacrifice that your fruit is hanging off your tree. You and I have been through some things. And see, ever since we've come to Jesus, and we surrendered our will, and we surrendered, we've been submissive to his will, and we sacrificed based on what he did in his sacrifice. Can I finish? Because him and the Father had already designed before time that Jesus would come and die for our sins. So Jesus gives us the perfect sermon in his walk and his lifestyle, Carlton, because he surrendered his will, was submissive to the Father's will, and then he sacrificed his time, his talent, his temple. Have you ever noticed the dollar bills got God's name on it? Yeah. And his treasure.
Come on now.
There ain't no money that you got. It already belongs to him.
There you go. Come on.
But if we're going to be disciples and follow him, he's asking us to help in the ministry. That others who may be outside, and they are outside, not maybe, or maybe inside. See, ministry starts with in-reach first. We got some folks here struggling.
That's right.
Oh, Lord Jesus. And it may not even be financially. It could be mentally. Yeah. It could be health-wise. And so being his disciples, we should sacrifice our time, talent, temple, and treasure. Elder Marshall gave us the perfect example before the sermon. He thanked everybody for their calls, the condolences. All of that means something. When we pray for Brother Keith Moulton, we go see Mom Hamilton, Brother Moulton. We talk about folks who have lost loved ones, and we support them. That's what we've been to Russell Gillison. We'll continue to lift up prayer. That's what the fruit is all about. Yes, it is. That all of us are in this together. And with Jesus attached to our necks, we can help each other and be there for each other. There is no such thing as a Lone Ranger Christian.
Come on.
Watch this, Mama Titi. And there's no Tonto either.
Come on.
That's right.
We're all in this together. And so when we know we're attached to him, we've accepted the invitation. This is the invitation for the soul. There may be somebody sitting here now, somebody on Facebook, somebody who will view YouTube later, and watch this and say, well, Pastor, this is an invitation that I need in my life. That where I was, no, where I am, is as laborious, it's toilsome, it's tiresome, the burden's too heavy. And you're saying that Jesus will take this burden if I give it to him.
Yes, he will.
Can I just come and park the car and get out and come in the house? The burden that he's talking about is your sin. And the law says that the wages of death, that the wages of sin is death. But the gift of God is eternal. Here's an invitation and an opportunity for you to leave where you are.
Come on.
Hallelujah. Let the shackles fall off. Let the chains fall off. Let the fetters off that have you bound. And say, well, Pastor Preacher, you don't know where I've been and what I've done. You're right, I don't, but he does.
Come on, man.
And so when you submit and you surrender your will, let Jesus have it. And let him attach himself to you. His yoke is easy and his burden is light. He will carry the heavy part of your sin. And then you can live in the plan, the purpose, and the promises that God has for you in your life. You don't need to struggle with it. You don't need to be stuck with it. You don't need to strain with it. You don't need to smell the stench of it. You just need to give it to him.
That's it.
and be set free.
Come on.
Be healed and be delivered.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And walk in the newness of life that God has for you. I declare and I decree for those of us who have been delivered, have been healed, and have been set free, we can testify and tell you that where we are now is better than where we was.
Come on.
Yeah, I wish I had some witnesses in this house. It's better. It's better. It's better. Someone's needing to be reclaimed. You backslid. We'll call it what it is. You left God because of some church hurt. Oh, I hate that phrase. Somebody told you, somebody said to you, somebody looked in the church. Everybody in the church is not here for the same reason. Everybody in the church doesn't know Jesus.
Come on, brother. Tell the truth.
So we're not offering you brick and mortar, nor church, but we have a remedy for church hurt. It's Jesus' help.
Come on, man. Come on.
See, they talk about church hurt, but nobody says Jesus' help. See, Jesus' help will take away church hurt.
That's right.
You'll discover it's not about the brick and the mortar. It's about Jesus. It's not about the pastor didn't shake your hand or didn't speak to you. It's about Jesus. It's not about you to praise didn't sing your favorite song and you sat there and won't join the choir no how. Hallelujah anyway. It's not about the usher took you past your favorite seat. You can sit anywhere.
That's right. That's right.
It's about Jesus helping you
Jesus, listen to that.
and giving you the hope to move forward with your life.
Yes.
Somebody's just looking for a relationship with either this fellowship or the Father himself. Those three things on the table. And I got to close now. And if it's anybody here, you can meet me in the aisle or talk to me after service. Congregation will stand. To our Facebook family, thank you for watching us. We do offer. Congregation, have a seat for a moment. What's so funny about that is Hillary came up to me and said, Pastor, you forgot I should listen to you. She's like, well, we're going to take up our offering in this moment. Amen. I should come, I'm going to get out the way with it. Because she reminded me, you forgot the offering. I said, no, I didn't go. I got it. But we're going to take up our offering, and then we're going to go home after we're doing this. Hillary, give us some offering to our music while I walk out.